Jayadvaita Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jayam Vishnupad Purnamhansa Paripradjakacharya Stotra Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Radha Kundi Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Jai Maharaj. Welcome everyone to reading of Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Today is Monday, June 5th, 2023. We're reading in the third canto, chapter 20, Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. And we take it up again with text number 2. And as always, Maharaj welcomes your comments and questions, so please use the raise hand feature or simply unmute yourself and speak when Maharaj asks for questions, or you can type your comments into the chat window. We ask that you just don't send any chat messages as Maharaj is reading something there, because it makes it more difficult to read. And at the end of class, I'll post some links in the chat that you can share with your friends so that they can attend as well. And if anyone wants to lead the closing kirtan, please send me a message in the chat. Maharaj, we're very glad that you could join us. Where are you right now?
I'm in New Jersey at the home of Mohan Govinda Das.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Bud Lake, New Jersey. Okay. Thank you all, and let us get going. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shata Maha Bhagavata Krishnasya Kantika Suhrit Yastatya Jagrajam Krishne Sapatyam Bhagavaniti. Shaunaka Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desires of the Lord. Purport. The incident referred to here is that Vidura left the protection of his elder brother Dhritarashtra, went traveling everywhere to sacred places, and met Maitreya at Hardwar. Shaunaka Rishi here inquires about the topics of the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. Vidura's qualification was that he was not only a friend of the Lord, but also a great devotee. When Krishna tried to stop the war and mitigate the misunderstanding between the cousin brothers, they refused to accept his counsel. Therefore, Kshatta, or Vidura, was unsatisfied with them, and he left the palace. As a devotee, Vidura showed by example that anywhere that Krishna is not honored is a place unfit for human habitation. A devotee may be tolerant regarding his own interests, but he should not be tolerant when there is misbehavior toward the Lord or the Lord's devotees. Here the word Bhagavan is very significant, for it indicates that the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's sons, lost the war because of being sinful in disobeying the instructions of Krishna. And if you give me one more moment, I'll be better situated. I'm better situated. Yes.
Could you adjust your screen? Is it possible to adjust your screen so you're a little more centered? Oh, now you're okay.
Now I'm okay, yeah.
Thank you.
It wasn't the screen, it was me. Okay. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Dokta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanchako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacham Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kshata Mahabhagavata. Shaunaka Rishi is interested in this discussion between Vidura and Maitreya. As Srila Prabhupada points out elsewhere, we can understand the value of a conversation by knowing who the discussants are. In a discussion between two construction workers, you'll get one level of discourse. In a discussion of scholars, another level, and in a discussion among pure devotees, still another. So here, Vidura was a Mahabhagavata, a great devotee of the Lord, a devotee of the highest standard. Krishnasya ekantika. He was exclusively absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kudunandana. His mind was absorbed in Krishna and not distracted toward anything else. Ekantika bhakti, one-pointed devotional service. And Suhrit, he was a personal friend of the Lord. Krishna is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, the best friend of every living entity. But particularly, he was actually a friend of Vidura's. The relationship was there. Krishna would come to Vidura's house, and in fact, came to Vidura's house in preference to the palace of Duryodhana. So he was an intimate friend of Krishna, a great devotee of Krishna, exclusively devoted to Krishna. And therefore, tatyaja agrajam, he gave up the company of his elder brother, not only his company, but his position as a servant of Dhritarashtra's government, an advisor to Dhritarashtra, a brother to Dhritarashtra. Agraja can also mean older brother, one who's born earlier, Agraja. So Dhritarashtra was the elder brother. Vidura was younger, but and Dhritarashtra was Vidura was the advisor to the court of Hastinapur, which meant something for his Hastinapur, and also was, well, that was his duty, his occupation. But he gave it all up. Tatyaja. Krishna sa apatyam agavan, because along with his sons, sa apatyam, he was against Krishna. Agavan, he was sinfully offensive toward Krishna. That was intolerable. This is the characteristic of a devotee. He can't stand to hear Krishna offended, or see Krishna offended, or see the devotee offended. For his own interest, all right, you may praise me or offend me. What is that? Tulyanindatma samstutihi in the Bhagavad Gita. The devotee is even-minded. He doesn't care whether he's bad-mouthed, nindatma, or samstutihi, whether he's glorified. Either way, doesn't matter. But when Krishna is insulted, or when the devotee is insulted, then that's not tolerable. So Vidura left. Of course, he was also personally insulted by Duryodhana, but that wasn't really the cause of his leaving. He'd been insulted so many times, but particularly that Duryodhana was so averse to Krishna's instructions that even tried to kidnap Krishna. Krishna came for his benefit to plead for peace. And Duryodhana was such a rogue that he tried to arrest Krishna. So how can we tolerate this kind of sinful association? So and finally, Agavan indicates, as Prabhupada said, that the Kauravas lost the Kurukshetra war because of being sinful. Vinashaya Chatuskritam. They were sinful, and particularly sinful because they were directly opposed to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. It's not just that they were sense gratifiers, that they went beyond the bounds of dharma in the pursuit of sense gratification, but that they went so far as to offend Krishna and offend devotees of Krishna. So with that background, they were so sinful that this brought them down. All right. Any comments, questions here? Yes, Tulsi Priya.
Maharaj, I'm kind of reluctant to ask this because everything seems to either be amplified or change when you talk about online activities. But in the past, not so much now because I've changed my behavior, there have been controversies and arguments and things like that where you'll see one senior devotee, and when I say senior, I mean senior to me, saying offensive things about another senior devotee. And in the past, I would come to the defense of the devotee that I thought was being blasphemed or offended or criticized unjustly. And then I read some things, and I can't remember the source right now, but saying that, the controversies or the conflicts that go on between God brothers, junior devotees should just stay out of it.
Yeah.
And so, even though I used to have like a saying, I would say, this is worth going to hell for, because I would be so upset that somebody was insulted, that I wouldn't be insulting, but I would be maybe less than respectful, towards somebody that I would ordinarily be very respectful only because they were a Prabhupada disciple. So I was just wondering about that. If somebody, for a junior devotee, it seems like it's best to just retreat and not hear it at all, rather than
That's the general advice, that when there's controversy between senior devotees, one is advised to to keep one's head down, essentially, to stay out of it and let them sort it out. Just think. Yeah. There may be exceptions, but as far as possible, we should try to stay out of these things. And therefore, another reason why social media is a good media to avoid. It's so antisocial and it's a breeding ground of aparats. It's a known characteristic by now of this cold form of communication. It's at once hot and cold. People get all fired up, but they somehow in this medium, they fire off things to one another that they would not ordinarily do. That they'd say things they would not ordinarily say. Certainly things they wouldn't say to your face, but on Facebook, they'll do it. So another good reason why real books are preferable to Facebook. If we stay in books like Srimad Bhagavatam, then at every moment we'll benefit. Swadu, swadu, pade, pade. So better this book than that book. All right. Let's see, there's a question from Murari Gupta. This purport would seem to explain why Vaishnavas were not active preachers outside of India, while other religions were marching across the planet. Did Mahaprabhu change that view? I don't think I get it. Vaishnavas weren't active preachers outside of India. Why? I don't think I understand what it is in the purport that you're pointing to. Maybe you'd like to clarify that. Otherwise, yeah. So you can give some time and you can come back to it and see, unless it's obvious to someone else. Okay. Oh, there we are. Yes. Yes. Dvaipayanad anavaro mahitve tasya deha jaha sarvatmana shrita krishnam tatparam chapyanuvataha. Vidura was born from the body of Vedavyas and was not less than he. Thus, he accepted the lotus feet of Krishna wholeheartedly and was attached to his devotees. Purport: the history of Vidura is that he was born of a Shudra mother, but his seminal father was Vyasadeva. Thus, he was not less than Vyasadeva in any respect. Since he was born of a great father who was supposed to be an incarnation of Narayan and who composed all the Vedic literatures, Vidura was also a great personality. He accepted Krishna as his worshipable Lord and followed his instructions wholeheartedly. Well, here, further testimony to the greatness of Vidura, Dvaipayanat Anavaraha, Mahatve, Tasya Deha Ja. He was born of Vyastev and was not less. Vara means best, Yaduvara, best of the others. Anavara, not less in greatness than Vyastev. So how great Vidura was. And Sarvatmana, Shruta Krishna, he was sold out. Sarvatmana Shruta, he took full shelter, heart and soul, Sarvatmana, took full shelter of Krishna. This is his, means perfect. We take shelter of, the materialists, Prakritim Mohinim Shrutaha, they take shelter of the material energy. And that tendency is there, even in mixed devotional service, to sometimes take shelter of karma kanda, sometimes take shelter of jnana kanda, sometimes take shelter of this, sometimes take shelter of that. But or to hedge our bets, the so-called Hindu religion, we take shelter of Krishna, Shiva, Durga, Ganesh, Vishnu. That means we're not Aikantika, and it's not Sarvatman. It's a partial. We give respect to Krishna, but we don't devote ourselves heart and soul to Krishna. Because what is that? Hoituki, because we have some motive. We're something for our own personal satisfaction. But here, Sarvatmana, body, mind, and words, he was dedicated to Krishna. And Tatparan, devoted to those who were devoted to Krishna. Anuvrata, he was a follower of the pure devotees. Bhagavat Sangasya, what is that? Like that. I'm forgetting the verse. But yes, devotion to Krishna means devotion to Krishna with his devotees. Yes, Mukesh. You can.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
There you are. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, my question is that, in the 10th canto, like it is mentioned that gopis prayed to Mother Katyayani so that they get Krishna as their husband. So, like, my question was like, should we pray to other demigods, if there is a bhava, like if there is a feeling, so that we can get a positive impetus to our Krishna consciousness?
Should we pray to the demigods for positive impetus in Krishna consciousness?
Considering them as devotees of the Lord.
Well, let's say this, that if we're going to pray to the demigods, that's what we should pray for. One doesn't need to approach the demigods, but if one does approach the demigods, then we should approach them with that purpose. The gopis were performing the Katyayani Vrata with that purpose. the Rukmini Devi, as part of the ritual for her prenuptial rituals, she went to the temple of Durga and Lord Shiva, and she was just praying to them, please let Krishna kidnap me, please, please. So that means that even when going to the temple of the demigods, her mind was totally fixed on Krishna. The gopis, even while worshipping Katyayani, were totally fixed on Krishna. So this is Krishna consciousness. So we don't need to seek out the demigods. We're not advised. After all, there's so many demigods. And just by worshiping Krishna, we're worshiping all of them. But if we feel some if we feel some devotion to a demigod, or we have some cultural or circumstantial reason why we're in the presence of the demigod, then we can pray to the demigod, please engage me in the service of Krishna. That Dhruva Maharaj also, Kuvera offered him a blessing because Dhruva was killing the yakshas, and then he desisted. So Kubera was pleased and offered him a benediction. So that was Dhruva's benediction he wanted, just to be engaged in the service of Krishna. Not, you're the treasure of the demigods, please, I could use some cash, but please let me be engaged in the service of Krishna. Okay. Murari's come back. Now it's clear that the devotees didn't go. Maybe this purport points out that any place outside, any place where Krishna is not worshipped is unfit for human habitation. So that may be why the devotees, why Vaishnavas didn't go there to preach. Yes, so many Vaishnavas, they stay in Vrindavan. What to speak of going to America or Europe? They don't want to leave Vrindavan. They don't want to go to Delhi or Calcutta. They want to stay in Mayapur. They want to stay in Vrindavan, where everyone's a devotee, where there's always Bhagavad Gita, where there's always Harinam. They take a vow sometimes never to leave Vrindavan. And so that's it. The rest of India or the rest of the world doesn't get the benefit of whatever they have to offer. But a devotee of a still higher standard is willing to go anywhere. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bhivyati svargapa varga narakesha pitul yarta darshanam. He'll go to a place that's unfit for human habitation. Ugristan, Prabhupada called it. Boston, but Prabhupada called it Ugristan. You brought me to this terrible place. The people are so eager to get a green card and reside in America, but Prabhupada looked at it as a terrible place, Ugristan. But he was keen to get a visa also, not for his personal interests, but out of compassion for the people of this country, misdirected people, and out of ardent desire to fulfill the desires of his Guru Maharaj. So, yes, the people in sadhus, Prahlad Maharaj says that also, that there are so many sadhus, and they generally go to the Himalayas and they practice their austerities for their own benefit. But I'm not like them. I don't want to go back to Godhead alone, seeing all the people of this world rotting for lack of Krishna consciousness. So that's the heart of the devotees of the highest standard. Yeah, and here's the verse. Tulyama levanapi nisvargam na punarpavham bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam kim. Udashishaha. Yeah. Maybe we can get the translation posted also. The Tuliyama Lavanapi, Niswarvanapuna. Even freedom from birth and death, or elevation, what to speak of elevation to the higher planets. Tuliyama Lavanapi is not equal to even a moment's association with Bhagavat Sanghi Sangasya. Those who are associated with the personality of Godhead, or those who are associated with the devotees of the Lord. Yes. In India, Praveen says, there are many ancient temples of Devi and other demigods. When we go on Parikrama, we come across such ancient temples. Should we be like desisting ourselves from paying our obeisances to the deities? Many devotees go to these temples. For example, Kanyakumari, Srishailam. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they're very strict about this. They won't go to any temple of any demigod. They won't accept Charanamrita or prasadam from any demigod's temple. They're very particular about this. The Lord Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's our worshipable deity, and we're not going to the temples of anyone else. But we saw that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He visited, when he traveled throughout India, he visited many temples of the Lord and many temples of demigods also. When our Padayatra was traveling to observe the 500th anniversary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, we followed his route, and therefore went to many temples of different demigods also. But again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not interested in worshiping the demigods for any material purpose. Or we can say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed the demigods by going to their temples. He blessed the demigods by going to their temples, and blessed the demigod worshippers by giving them his darshan. But in any case, we may, or we did on our Padayatra do that, but only with the intention of serving Krishna, not for any other purpose. And Tulsi Priya has posted, the value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets, liberation from matter, and what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of materials, prosperity, which are for those who are marjanam, meant for death. Marjanam kinmakashisham, benedictions for those who are destined to die. Thank you. Yes, Tulsi Priya.
Maharaj, I had a question about Vidura Prabhu. When he was born of a Shudra mother, and I don't remember the details so much, but I believe he was disparaged for that. But then he's considered equal to his father, who is not a Shudra. So I'm wondering how in the Varnashram system, since although his parents weren't formally married, how much I always thought that the woman assumes the Varna of the husband, or that it doesn't necessarily matter so much, but here it seems that it does, that his mother being a Shudra is important.
Well, let's sort this out as far as we can. First, yes, he was insulted that way, Duryodhana said to, spoke out in court, because Vidura frankly condemned Duryodhana for his opposition to Krishna. And Duryodhana retaliated by saying, who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? Son of a whore, basically, we would say. So it was a keen insult. On account of the Prabhupada mentions that when a king would marry, or when a king would marry, along with the princess that he would wed, there would be various maidservants who would come with the queen. And sometimes there'd be intimate association between the king and the maidservant. And so there'd be a child born. They were called Dasi Putras. The maidservants were Dasis, and Dasi Putra, son of a maidservant. So Prabhupada says these Dasi Putras were treated respectfully as sons of the king, but according to Manu's law, they couldn't inherit. Otherwise, Vidura could have inherited the kingdom, but he was excluded for that reason, that he wasn't the son of the queen. He was the son of a Dasi. But this kind of union is accepted as anulom. Prabhupada explains in the section about Romaharsham Sutta that there are two kinds of combinations, sexual combinations for begetting a child, anulom and pratilom. When the father is of a higher caste and the mother of a lower caste, the union is called anulom. And when the mother is of a higher caste than the father, then it's called pratilom, prati against. So it's unfavorable. Therefore, who was it? That was it Sarmishta, the daughter of Sukracharya, was rescued from the well by Yayati. The daughter wanted to accept Yayati as her husband, but it was not exactly according to the rules, because he was a Kshatriya and she was the daughter of a Brahmin. So that would have been pratilom, contrary to the rules. Whereas here, or Devahuti, she was the daughter of Manu, that means coming from a Kshatriya family. But she married Kardama Muni, who was a Brahmin. So it was a combination of different castes, but that combination was acceptable because it was anulom. When it's pratilom, then varna sankara. Sankaro narakayaiva kulakananam kulasyacha. This is what used to be called breeding. Now, when we speak of good breeding, we just sort of mean good manners. And we hardly speak of that even anymore. Good breeding is sort of some quaint term that's really gone out of style. But the origin is that it meant that the husband and wife were properly matched, that the daughter of a king would marry a prince, that the daughter of a sage would marry a sage, that the daughter of a prominent mercantile family would marry the son of a prominent merchant. In this way, there'd be appropriate breeding. Or if it wasn't exactly of this, if it wasn't of the same caste, then the wife would be in a subordinate position to the husband, not that she would be a superior in caste. So these things were very carefully followed. Good breeding. Even when we're breeding animals, they're carefully bred. You're looking for certain characteristics. So they breed brown Swiss cows with other brown Swiss cows, not with some inferior breed. But now it's just on the basis, as predicted by Shamik Rishi to his son, that due to the misbehavior of the Brahmins and the lack of proper Kshatriya administration, people will copulate like dogs and monkeys, and the offspring will be accordingly degraded. Varna Sankara. Yes. Oh, in Kali Yuga, practically this is always going on, that we meet people, the people we meet and we ourselves may be Varna Sankara, just haphazardly begotten. But in the case of Vidura, although his mother was a Shudra, his father was exalted, and so he's considered to be exalted in birth, even though he was the son of a Shudrani, because his father was Vyasadeva. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to ask also, I had heard in reference to worshipping of demigods that Mahaprabhu used to go to the Konark temple daily when he was in Puri in the mood of Srimati Radharani, because she worshipped Surya Dev. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't recall that. But he sometimes used to go there, at least we know that. And Prabin has corrected me that the daughters of Shukracharya was Devyani, and Sarmishta was her assistant, who also had an intimate relationship with Yayati. Mukesh says, Srila Prabhupada could have stayed in Vrindavan for the rest of his life and would have lived for probably 100 years. He sacrificed his health for compassion for all, although he knew there were no devotees in USA. I was just remembering I forget why I was remembering, but I was remembering that Prabhupada sometimes would come to the Northeast in the winter, to Boston or to New York, and he would have a severe cold. He would keep a spittoon and be, coughing up thick mucus, and that because that weather was so harsh, Boston weather, New York weather, Canadian weather. But Prabhupada, yes, he sacrificed his health for preaching, to uplift the people of the world. Yes. And Anantashesh says if Prabhupada stayed back in Vrindavan, we wouldn't be having this Zoom class now. Yes. If Prabhupada had not left Vrindavan, where would we be? And Anantashesh also says that in horse racing, breeding is very important. Yes. Yes. For horse racing, it's very important, but for human beings, it doesn't matter. Just willy-nilly, whoever gets together with whoever for whatever reasons. that becomes that. And at least in the horse breeding, there's intention. It's very carefully the horses are chosen and so on. But in Kali Yuga, people just have sex out of lust only, with marriage, without marriage, and there's not even consideration who's, these absurd things like higher family, lower family, and we'll see. There won't be consideration of things like mother, sister. Kali Yuga will be so degraded, so degraded. Even now, they don't. There's not consideration. Man, woman, dog. So degraded people. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Come on in. There's a class going on. You're welcome to sit. It's another 10 minutes. Goes on. Hare Krishna. So that's Kali Yuga. People don't have any, even the sense that there's something, some standards here, some purpose. It's what purpose? So the only purpose is to satisfy their senses. The only purpose is to satisfy their senses. And therefore, both in begetting children and then raising children, everything becomes, unwanted children. Prabhupada uses that term for Varna Sankara, unwanted children. And we see that all the time, that there's so many children who are born of parents who aren't married and who certainly didn't want children, or else there's within marriage, they have children, and then where did that one come from? They didn't expect that one. So there's, yes. So it's simply haphazard. And then you get children who are confused. Prabhupada one time referred to Allen Ginsberg as Varna Sankara, as an example of Varna Sankara. Messed up. Although he did service, for which we're always grateful. Murari says, my grandmother would talk about good breeding, but I never hear it now. Yeah, it's like gone out of style. Gone out of style. Tulsi Priya, I used to not understand this sentiment. Then as time went by, I saw how my own family created obstacles in my practice of Krishna consciousness, not just from the members themselves, but in my own conditioning, which is hard to overcome, at least in the mental way. Yeah, those who are Varna Sankara, who have no, what's the word, who were just born somehow. These are not advantages for cultural and spiritual advancement, or even for stability in this world. It creates confusion and conflict and inner messed up minds and messed up lives in so many ways. In so many ways. But the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movements and the glory of the holy name is that even the Varna Sankara's population can be uplifted. Dinahina Yutta Chilo Hariname Uttarilo. Yes, Tulsi Priya, I missed it. It quoted Sanatan Kohei. Nicha Mongshe Mor Janma Adharma Anyayata Amar Kula Dharma. Yes. Niche Vamshe Mor Janma. I've taken birth in a low family. There's some discussion about that I saw. Maybe it was something Joseph O'Connell had written, or something from Gopinath Acharya, looking more carefully at Sanatana Goswami's family background. But he always represented himself in that way. Sanatana Goswami said, I was born in a low family. My family commits all kinds of irreligious acts that violate the scriptural injunctions. Then we see Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu. So even in the son of a demon can become a great devotee of the Lord. The Westerners taking up Krishna consciousness accept a bigger austerity compared to Indians. Anantashesh says, I don't know, but Panchatattva has stepped forward to lead the closing kirtan. So let him step forward and let us learn. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripad Jakacharya Ashtottara Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Gaur. Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu. Beautiful kirtan. And thank you, Tulsi Priya. And thank you to all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shara and Doug and the Brahmajoti.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you. Welcome to Sharan. Thank you, Haridas Prabhu and Meena. Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Please share those class links in the class chat box with your friends, and we look forward to seeing you all again on Wednesday for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.